Hello, everyone. Let's make sure this thing is on and working and everything is operational. Checking. Okay, I think we're good. Hey, it's been a week and apologize for my absence. I was out of town and it's just some busyness throughout the week. Just couldn't. Oh, there, look at that. There we go. So I was out and I'm back. So gonna do a little bit of kind of what we did on St. Josephine Bakhita today. So today we're gonna focus on trying to capture the specific likeness of Carlo Acutis, St. Carlo Acutis, using the light information from my model. So you can see kind of the two images and you can see where I'm going. I'm going to try to capture the light on the bottom left while capturing the likeness of St. Carlo Acutis on the upper left. Bottom left light situation, likeness upper left. So it ends up being kind of a fun adventure while I try to land the plane and make this work. I was happy with how St. Josephine Bakhita worked out. I feel like it went okay. So we got about 2 hours here, and I'm gonna paint away. And if you are watching, feel free to ask any questions as I'm going. And also feel free to ask questions later. I'll be happy to answer at another time. All right. Normally, I mix up some colors ahead of time. This time, I decided just to not do that. I'm gonna mix as I go on this, and so that maybe offer you a little bit more of a view on how the color mixing goes and how I tend to think about it. And I'll try to talk through some of the mixtures as I go. All right, I think that's all. I'm going to start by blocking in some darker values. I've already, this is all dry, what's here right now. I did some indirect painting. Just wanted to work on getting a little bit of the drawing down of Carlo Acutis, and also just to have a little bit of values to undergird what I'm about to do here. So let's begin. I did mix up my mixed black, which you're probably tired of hearing about it now, but it is burnt sienna and ultramarine blue. That's it. Really simple. But I like to establish early on my darkest dark. And I can certainly say that I see that in the hair here. I don't know if I want to make the hair quite as bushy as I did. Kind of looking at this. We'll see. I'll start slow, see where we end up. One of the interesting things, when you're thinking about a likeness, trying to capture someone so that they're recognizable. Their overall head shape is really important. You would think that, wouldn't it be the eyes, the nose, the mouth? Yeah, those are important too. But if you capture the overall shape of the head, it does a lot to get you there closer and closer to a likeness. And that's one of those measurements you need to make that is kind of like how tall versus how wide, how much hair, what's the angle here when it comes up to, I'm kind of looking at the side of Carlos' head here, and like this, I think it's gonna kind of slope out a little bit. He had a great head of hair. The other thing, I look at like how close does the hairline come to like the eye here. Like I said, I'm using the drawing on the top and I'm using the light information on the bottom reference. And this is always a bit of an adventure because it could go any way. So maybe we'll get something out of today, maybe not. Blocking in those darks. Thanks for joining the stream. If you have any questions, please ask away. even life questions. It's just fun to talk, fun to hang out with people while painting. All right, my little pile of black here is pretty much gone, so I'm going to dip into each of these here, start making my black just between the two, burnt sienna, ultramarine blue. And I'm going to keep going. This is just going to be like a piecing it together for a while. I'm going to start off by just establishing kind of this big dark side of the hair, which is going to be like some of our darkest elements and the entire head here. It's a trade-off. You know, oftentimes I like to do some pre-mixtures just so that I can kind of quickly block stuff in. But that can take like 30 minutes before I even begin. And I thought, no, I need to get going on this stream. I guess it'll have about 2 hours. Okay. Kind of looking at both. The hair will, you know, be one of those things that can always be loose with. In fact, less is more when it comes to hair. Trying to get a likeness for somebody, or you're painting a portrait of someone, maybe you're doing figure painting. One of the best things you can do is to keep the hair really simple. Just a few brush strokes. Don't be tempted to get out a small brush and put it in strand by strand or some craziness like that. The temptation is, oh, well, that'll make it look more real, but it ends up doing the opposite. Think about how fluid hair is. You know, it's constantly moving, and the more your brush work reflects that, the more real it'll look, even if you don't even really have that much visual information. Okay, I have done about all I intend to do there for right now. So I'm going to pause the getting the hair in. I might put a little bit over here, just so I can frame. So I do see kind of a, you know, darkest dark here. That way I can frame the values just a little bit. I like to be up next to the I like to bump up next to these, what I consider my darkest darks, because then I'll use that as this area that is utterly defined, and like it really keys me in to make decisions elsewhere, because I can always come back, compare it to the black. How much lighter, because that's always the question I'm going to ask myself, how much lighter or darker is this color compared to the next? All right, so we got a little bit of hair down here. I think that's going to be important, just to really getting it to look like him. Just a little bit of hair back here. All right. So if I look at my reference for light, which is the bottom left, now I'm looking at this entire shadow side of the face, and you know, I can tell that it's lighter than the hair, but only slightly. So I'm going to get out my palette knife here, and I'll mix together. I'll start with my mixed black. So I've got a little bit ultramarine and the burnt sienna. So I'm going to mix that up. And because the burnt sienna is lighter than ultramarine, I can just start grabbing a little bit extra of that and mix like the next value that I need to. Value lighter. So and you can see if I get a little thinner maybe that it's also warm. And if I look at the shadow, at least in my reference on the tablet here, it is warmer. Might snag just a little bit of alizarin crimson. That'll also warm it up even more. And he's wearing this red shirt, and there's going to be some reflected light coming back up into the face there. And if I want to lighten it up a little more, rather than using white, I can use a color, just get a little bit of yellow ochre and bring that to just a slightly lighter value. And I'm going to use this to really fill in that shadow side. Yes, it's going to be a challenge because I need to try to keep the drawing of the face, Carlo Acutis. So I'm going to be looking closely at facial features. What is distinctive? And now that we sort of have two models side by side, you can really tell like his eyebrows are closer to his eyes overall. Eyes are a little thinner, lips are thinner, a little sharper features, nose, chin, those sort of things that you just want to pay attention to. All right, let's block in this here, see how dark that is. Oh, that's a little too dark. I want to bring it up just a little lighter, so I'm going to grab some cadmium red. And I'm going to lighten that. The various bits, like ears, noses, those things that stick out from the face, they're always redder, especially in lighter skin tones. See the blood flowing through the skin. It may seem a little strange, but it's the truth. All right. As you can see, I'm just filling in. I had that color mixed, but all of us know that it's not going to be quite right. I'm filling in that color, especially on this underside where we're starting to reflect the red shirt. I want to make sure that I get that. But I'm also looking at Carlo's face. So like the way the jaw is a little sharper. And I want to make sure that as I put some of these shapes in that I'm keeping to that. I got a little darker on that back side of the brush. That's what I get for not changing that. Nice deep shadow on the other side of the nose too. Looking back and forth. There's some of this, I can of course use the model. Like the model will be sufficient for many parts. But there will be those moments where I really need it to look like Carlo Acutis. The eyes, the lips, a few of those things. really pay attention to later. So still building up the dark values, and it's always how I start. I feel like I have something I can constantly compare back to. And then the shadow there on the neck, very dark. And this area right here has what painters call sunken in. And that just means that the oil color here is a lot richer and darker. We just can't see that right now because it's been sunken into the lower layers underneath, and so you lose some of that richness. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's you can oil it out, bring it all back. That's what I will do when I go in to refine all of this. So I'm just trusting that I remember how rich that was. And it may still be a little wet. I did just paint it 2 days ago. For our purposes today, just to get some of those dark values in, that's all we need to do. Yeah, that's one of those like fine-tuning things that I'll do later. Okay. Got a long way to go still. It's also one of those exciting things to watch come into being. The bottom right panel or little kind of window, video window, shows where I am on the overall progress. And I did mostly like background stuff this week, tried to keep it fairly simple. Tried to stay away from the really interesting things so that when we came back for the stream, be doing fun stuff. Stuff you might actually want to watch. It's I mean, I have all the analytics and data, right? You know, Google and YouTube are really good at sharing all those things. And yeah, I know what the people want. The numbers don't lie. Okay. So at this point, you know, we've nearly blocked in everything, and now I'm going to take that next step. So if we get our darkest dark, the hair. Then I took a baby step lighter and got the deep shadows on the side of the face here. Those blocked in. Now I'm going to take another step. So this step along here is often like what we'd call the terminator, or the spot where it's like right where the shadow or the light is completely blocked. But we're going to want to put in some color on that edge. So I'm going to take the next little step up. little yellow ochre. Notice I haven't used any white yet. Nothing wrong with white, but use it when you need to. Avoid it until, yeah, until you must use it, then use it. Some old color over here that I wanted to use if I had any left. Not really. Yeah, a lot of times if I have a little bit of paint left over, I'll just kind of set it to the side here. It'll dry and develop a skin on the outside, but there'll still be some of that color on the inside, which, you can then use later. And sometimes if I'm working on a big painting, kind of like this, and I want to save some color knowing I'm going to come back to it, I pile it off to the side. All right. Charge the brush with some medium. And now we're going to work on that next step lighter. Still looking at the face, trying to guess my best. Guess at where everything is. I think that shadow underneath the chin is about the darkness of this value that I currently have. Carlo has that little bit of an upturned chin here. So we'll want to key into that. It's back and forth, back and forth. Next little steps. As things get lighter around the edges. Across the bridge of the nose, though, I'm gonna bump up the chroma, get a little redder, because it just does. That's the way it works. Might seem a little extreme. I'm gonna really pump up the red right here across the bridge of the nose. Maybe even the bit of nose shadow on this side. It's probably about that light of a shadow that I have now. Overall eye shape, it's one of those things I'm going to be looking at, when I get into it. My corner of the mouth, when I look at his likeness, I think you'd go a little higher. So I'm constantly making drawing decisions. If you didn't get a chance to see my video where I used, yes, a Quest 3, MetaQuest 3 headset to put this composition on this big panel you see here, I should check that out. It's not a substitute for drawing, but it's a really nice tool. Yeah, it's worth watching. I think it's very interesting. To me, it just kind of blows my mind. Feels really futuristic that someone could do something like that. Okay, oh, I didn't quite get the forehead. Forehead's looking a little cooler, so I've got this kind of cooler gray I'm going to mix in and come across the forehead slightly. A little less chroma. Chroma's color saturation across the top there. It's always good. I mean, when you, I'm using the live stream as my step back and take a look. How's everything coming? Help. And gosh, when things, we don't have that much visual information, but when things are going okay, you'll be able to see that, oh, it does look like a face, even though there's only, really, we just have a 2-value breakdown. That's it. There's really nothing more to it right now. Okay, next step. So as I had that line that's in between the kind of light and shadow. Now we're going to moving into the areas that are into the light, and we can work on that edge much longer. I'm going to grab the next brush and mix up that next lightest color. And we're saving the things I had already mixed because I pull from those later. There's no reason to mix back into those. So I'm looking at the light on near the shadow side of the face. Just asking myself, what color should I be mixing? First and foremost, how light or dark is it in comparison to the shadow on the cheek? Everything's a game of comparisons. Drawing everything. All right. Let's see if that doesn't do it. Might be a little too orangey. So if I want to bring down that orange, I can just mix across the color wheel. So blue and orange, opposite sides of the color wheel. I can lower the chroma, make it less orangey by just adding the other side. And then also I'm making a chromatic neutral when I do so. I'm using colors to make some more near neutrals. All right, let's see how this turns out. Not bad. I do have a tendency to make things more red. It's just what I do. So even as I mix those, I was like, oh, it feels too gray. So I added a bit of red. Lighten it up just a tad with yellow ochre. There's this whole sort of shape here in the upper cheek. There's not much light there, There's just not a whole lot of light gracing that side of the face. But I do need to get what's there. It might be time, almost, to dip into the white. And I'm always going to go as long as I can without, but I'm sort of getting to that point now. Face. And we're going to need it. It's incredible how weird it can look as you're going along. It's like, yep, just not quite there yet. I'm gonna get that deeper shadow there. Even though I know that's not the same shadow cast on my light reference, but all right, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna dip into white. No going back. If you just joined, feel free to drop a question in the chat. It's awfully quiet over there. Otherwise, I might get bored. You know, and I'm gonna have to make some decisions as to like how much of the face here comes into the light. And it'll be all just a lot of guesswork. We are deep into the worst it can possibly look. I guess I could make it worse than this, but we are in what all paintings have. It's the ugly teenager phase. You're just not there. I know you have those photos from when you were in 7th grade. Pretty rough. I know mine were. 7th, 8th, 9th. I think mine went well into 10th as well. But then, you kind of come out of it. So we have yet to turn the corner on this. If you just dropped in, welcome. Blocking in here the major face planes. One of the things too is I gotta quickly get that that I value to match what it's really supposed to be. So the sclera, the white of the eye, have not begun to work on that yet. That'll transform things when I get there. So let's get some of that in. We have some pretty dark values here to this side, the eye. Same thing's going to happen in block that in. I love these times where it just continues to look bad until you get more information in. And you're going to see really quick just how important. I mean, like right now, I don't have anything in the sclera of the eye, right? And it looks really awkward. So one of the things that often happens is, you see the white of an eye, and you say, oh, well, it's white, it's light, but it's not. And in fact, this very corner of the actual sclera here on my model's eye is really mostly black, catching just the tiniest bit of light on the edge of the eyelid there. But these colors are they're not light. Value is everything. So we're about to turn the corner here. Let me get these values correct in here. It's a little bluer than what I wanted, but it's okay. At least initially, just need to get those values correct. Filling in some of these little areas that I'm trying to look at the way it's eyebrows. I'm gonna work on this eyebrow next. They're very low to the eye. Very, very close to the right at it. They come in a little bit here. Okay. Still at it, blocking in. And, I'm still working my way from the shadow side to the light side. I think probably for most people, it's really hard to see that this is going to turn into something. But this is just laying down the groundwork so that I can begin to make it into a final and finished painting. But it doesn't happen right away. Okay. So another defining feature, when I look at Carlo Acutis is his upper lip. It's very, very slim. And space between the bottom of the nose and the upper lip. A little longer. Okay, getting there. Because I can. I'm not in the chair. Got a ability to just jump back really quick. Okay. Onward. All right, teeth. That's also one of those really challenging things. No matter what you do, I try to kind of avoid them if I can. But they are here. So. This bottom lip in shadow. And upper lip, again, very dark. And really thin. Let's take a look, compare, things that we might not do because we don't have two faces to kind of compare in this way, but notice how thin the upper lip is. And that's one of those likeness things. If we get that right, it's going to do a lot for us. All right, so I'm going to get my next brush out, which will be like the light value brush. So this will be the areas that are really more in the light overall as we start working around the other side of the face. And away we go. Actually, I might mix something up here. Save that little bit of color. Jump back to that. I'm going to use more white. Start off with white for the first time. Areas in the light. Remember, I've been going really slow with that, trying not to do too much too soon. I'm going to set that color aside. I'm going to mix another one. Not quite as light. A little more orangey red. And I'm going to mix up something that's a little more purple. Where white goes a long way. You start adding it, it can really take over. Okay. Let's see where those get me. So this one, I'm going to jump right into the forehead. A little darker than I want, but I mistakenly put some of those darker values in there. Rinse the brush a little bit. See if that helps. Yeah, that's better. Blocking in these, some of the shapes that I see. Across the nose here, a little redder. Trying to work quickly, intuitively. Seeing the color shapes, blocking them in. See already I'm not really got enough yellow going. It's a little too pink and less. It's a little more of a yellow shift. It's the nice thing about oils that I can just immediately add that. Light coming across the forehead. Again, if you've just started watching, I'm using the reference on the bottom left as my kind of light reference, and I'm trying to capture the likeness of the reference on the upper left. St. Carlo Acutis, recently canonized September 7th. First millennial saint. Shadow underneath the eye. Because his brows are a little stronger than my model, even though my model is facing upward a little bit. Still want to really capture the deeper shadow underneath the brow. I mean, that already transforms it so much. Get small, small things. Big changes, especially in trying to capture likeness, trying to see if you can get the person eyes really sit deep underneath the brows here, so because this approach is a little different, I'm kind of moving around a lot, and I'm trying to carefully make decisions. So he had this, I kind of look at his cheeks, especially Carlo, and I think those are going to be very important to capture. Shapes of the nose. And every one of these movements his little drawing decisions are either coming closer to his likeness or farther away. We'll see how it goes. Well, there's no we'll see. Eventually, no matter how many times I have to go over it, we'll get there in the end. You know, undoubtedly, I mean, I just really want it to feel and look like Carlo. And all these shapes, shapes and shapes and shapes. And some sort of value for the eye, sclera. And it's almost always, and you can take this to the bank, almost always darker than you think. So now it's really, with a few of these shapes put into place, it's really a matter of now filling in. Like I can look at things like where does it appear? You know, 'cause some people, their nose like meets the area between their eyes a little higher, a little lower. You know, I'm kind of looking at the image, Carlo, and I think it's a little higher. One of the things that I try to do painting the saints is just really try to have a fresh look. You know, yes, I think we see a lot of the same images. And I'd like for in the chapel where these are going, there to be a freshness to them so that it's not like, oh yeah, you know, I've seen that before. That was taken from this painting or that particular photo that was just made directly from that photo, but really a fresh life to the saints, especially the ones that we had pictures of. And because I can. If you just joined the stream, feel free to drop a question in the comments. Happy to answer whatever you're thinking, wondering about. It's way more interesting if you ask a question. And there's no question that is off limits. Feel free to ask. The lower eyelids, the more that I kind of look at, I'm studying. So as I'm painting here, I'm studying and thinking. The lower eyelids, really, this little shape right in here, it's really gonna make or break, I think, his likeness. If I get some of the eye, the nearness of the brow, eyebrows to the eye, some of those things, I think it's gonna work if I can do that. Okay, time to decide on the mouth, how I'm going to depict it. So in this decision-making process, like right now, I'm looking to each of my references and deciding what's the best way to go. Hello, Rob. Good to see you. How's your painting coming? And has the deadline already passed for the contest? And did you send me a message yet? Because I've not really been on Instagram very much. So if you did, I apologize that I have not seen it yet. Simply because I usually have to go in and search for those a little closer. Okay, yep. Plan. Let's do it. Let's get that upper lip, which is really faces in. Thinner, faces in. It has a very distinctive shape also. Oh, deadline was yesterday. Oh. Well, you're still, feel free to shoot it my way if you'd like. When I look at this, see here, when you make more deliberate moves, this length here, I feel like the nose to eye length is good, but I think this length is where I'm gonna mess up if I don't knock this down some. Went wrong with the shape of the saucer. Oh, okay. Thanks, Rob. Well, we'll see. I'll give you some feedback. Gonna work on the rest of the teeth that aren't really in the light. But I do want to hint at them. And maybe even tell the story of maybe one break. There's a kind of less is more on all of this. The more detailed we get around some of that, the worse off it can be. Get that lower lip in the light. It's a bit of information we are just missing. Obviously, in the reference, the light reference, I can see there's a color there, so I can use that. Get some of that in. Been thinking about all of, I've seen in the news a lot, there's been a lot of sculptures lately that people have railed against because they're doesn't look like the person, and so I just pause to say that it is really important that we get this right. And I'm not saying that this is right now, but I'm going to work at it until it is. I'm sure that those artists did as well. But you better ask about 20 different people to give you some feedback. Because you all know how it is. You see someone, you turn to your friend or your partner and you're like, hey, that looks just like, whomever, and they immediately say, no, it doesn't. And you're like, of course it does. So you need a lot of feedback, a lot of eyes. So, before this is finished and installed, a lot of eyes on it. We'll be talking about, is it looking like it? Does it feel like it has a spirit? I personally don't want that to stand in the way of someone being able to kind of connect. Good. I think I'm going to try to get this little shadow in here. This might really goof some things up. We'll find out. Right. Can't see any button on IG to post the photo in the message screen. I'm hopeless. As I'm not looking at it right now either, I couldn't tell you. Hate to say it, I'm pretty bad also. Even though I'm good enough to get a live stream going, can do that much. It's a lot of help. All right, filling in. It's getting closer. Something. I think the right now, I'm using a lot of bigger brushes, so lots of big fill in. I just want information down. That's what at first, that's always the goal, is to just get in the big grand idea, and then tweak little drawing decisions, move some things around. So it's not always really pretty at this stage. But I feel like I need to adjust the nostril. I think they're feeling a little more upturned than they really are. So I'm just going to kind of come in here with the shadow. Down some. Brings nose edge down a little bit. This is like fine-tuning the drawing, right? Still not entirely clear. So I'll have to. So when it comes to doing this method of trying to capture one person's likeness onto my model who kind of posed for me for the reference, so that I could get this whole scene in the same light. That's my goal, is that it really feels cohesive. And so sometimes I will make a direct decision to paint or render something I see from the photo reference of the actual person. And then other times I'll dial in and try to get the light more specific. And then when I do that, I really do have to make a deliberate decision to say, okay, I'm going to paint the underside of my model's nose, just because I really need those things to kind of work out together. And then I'll try to shape some of the other pieces that will be more recognizable, facial features, and more of Carlos's likeness. So, all right, Rob says, I'll try later. I think it's because I'm a beginner. I should have spent more time on the underpainting. Okay. Yeah, the hierarchy, you've probably heard me say it before, but that the whole drawing is foundational, right? So if you mentioned the saucers. So if the saucer, if your ellipse, assuming it's sitting on a table, your ellipse really has to be just right. So anytime you're struggling, and goes for everyone listening, anytime you're struggling with painting at all, or realize it's number one, it's probably a drawing issue first, and then after that you can you feel like, okay, no, I've solved that drawing issue. Second is value. Value just means relative light and dark, and if you have checked both the drawing and the value, by that time it's most likely fixed, just with those two things. Now you can get very specific with color later, and that will, you start talking about like chroma and other things like that. But most likely, those few things were the issue. Those two things, drawing or perspective, drawing, which of course includes perspective and all those things, really, really important. Yeah, it's, I would say there's just a lot of invention when you use like the lighting from one and the drawing from another. You end up inventing a lot. And like I joked around on the previous video that I did of this, where I need to put a sign up that says trained professional, do not attempt, because even I will mess up this, and it just doesn't even, sometimes it just doesn't work. I'm not too scared right now, but it's still loose, and so actually the fact that it's loose is actually a little forgiving. So once I start tightening it down some, that's when all the stuff will be made manifest. I'm trying to see if I can get this side. So it really appears to me, so this is a guess, like this, here's that invention thing I'm talking about, Rob. So it looks to me like Carlo, he had cheeks, and really when he smiled, so we got a smile, is really, that cheek is really there on either side, and you can kind of see the lines here. And so I want to try to capture that. But then what I'll have to do is I'll have to imagine the light kind of coming from this side, and not so strong as like the sun, obviously, but as like, how would that hit the other side of the cheek, and what exactly would that look like? And yeah, we'll play with this for a long time. I'm grateful to have two saints in this panel that are so far back in time we don't actually know what they look like. I like to save myself just a little bit. I mean, I didn't select them, but it does make it just a little easier on me. I don't have to try to capture like 4 likenesses, exact likenesses. All right, I think I want to get just a little bit. I'm gonna really get a lot of paint in here just for a second. Some of this. See me avoiding the hard things by just like, oh, I'll go use the hair for a little bit. Hi, Shirley. Good to see ya. Yes. Sorry, I was out of town for 4 days, and yeah, I'm back, but it just wasn't quite working. I couldn't be like, it's had a lot of little busy things to do. Good stuff, all good stuff, nothing bad. But it just kind of kept me from saying, okay, I can give a good, 2 hours to a stream today. It just didn't quite line up this week. And I was thinking, I got to get something going here. So yes, we're going to keep going. And I intend, with all the help I can get, to get this through. So, and to continue just sharing it and sharing the progress. Besides, you want to see me up on like a weird table stand when I got to get to the top here. It'll be exciting. That's when I'll really have to put the do not attempt trained professional up. So interesting. I made that little shift there. It seemed like it was, I widened that out and it just didn't look like him anymore. This really needs to come in thinner. Yeah, that bridge of his nose, especially between his eyes, is um, very slender. That might be called, this space in between the eyes might be called, don't quote me on this, the glabella. I don't know. Someone? Anyone? Internet sleuths. So I feel like I had him a little bit. I feel like I'm losing him a little bit now. And yeah, this is the push and pull that'll continue until we complete the work. So no matter where it is, in about 40 minutes, I'm gonna have to call it for the day. Try really hard not to come in and paint in the studio on Saturdays. It could be kind of a Sabbath day, and but in losing 4 days last week for a trip, really need to keep working on this. It's a goal of hopefully November-ish. I don't know if I'm gonna make it. Trying though. Get a little bit of the neck in the light here. And this side of the face. Awesome. Thanks for looking that up, or just thanks for your knowledge, Rob. Confirm the glabella. Yeah, I don't know how to spell it either. My fellow instructor here, which I'll find out to tell you, he uses that term a lot. And I guess we're talking about drawing people, drawing and painting. Don't feel kind of quieter today. I don't know why. Nothing's immediately coming to mind to say. So you're gonna have to ask great questions. Okay. Yeah, good question, Shirley. Well, really, I mean, the glance of the eyes, yes, but also I want the drawing and the facial features of St. Carlo Acutis. This image is one I found online that has a similar, kind of light scenario as as when I took shots with the model. And so I'm kind of trying to come as close as I can to the light, which each of the models, yeah, and you've asked great questions about that before. So each of the models is photographed in kind of the same room, the same light setup. I did really, I was just remembering, I did really well this time of like um, scheduling them within like 3 days of each other. And so I just left the setup, the light setup in the studio here. And so I was able to just kind of bring each one over the course of maybe only like 2 days, 3 days, something like that. And so that's what I'm trying to keep is that overall look, and so that it feels consistent. Also that it'll be adhering to the other panels as well, so all of it really will work together. And so yeah, so I'm kind of drawing from the top reference and using the bottom reference as the light reference. Light, skin tone, all of that. Very much like I did with St. Josephine Bakita. If you recall that live stream, very similar. But this is kind of what I do each time I'm painting a historical figure that, or someone that I wouldn't have access to, and so, someone that we have images of, right? And somebody will be able to look, and it needs to be recognizably that person. I mean, that's the other. So that's what I try to do to get a fresh look at that person, because otherwise, especially someone who is deceased, like you'll only have so many photos of them, and especially someone who has some level of fame, and certainly St. Carlo Acutis does within the Catholic Church. I think you end up recognizing those same photos. Like if you can look at other depictions of Carlo, if you were to look it up on Google, you'll see paintings and artworks, all sorts of things, and they're made from a photo, and you know which one it is, right? And so the way I challenge myself, I guess, it's like I want something fresh. I want something that someone looks at and says, that saint, but I've never seen them look that way, and that's not from this photo that I know that I see. So kind of give myself probably a lot of trouble because of that desire to really make it something unique for those who are in the chapel worshiping. To kind of remove that, oh, that's that photo that I've always seen of that person. That makes sense. Okay. Rob says, question please. As a professional with many years of experience, did you learn how to correct mistakes, or would you start again from scratch? Let's see. Did you learn how to correct mistakes, or would you start? Like, do you mean, Rob, do you mean life mistakes? Would I start all over again? Or do you mean within like a painting, or within this particular painting? Or, sorry, question. I'm asking for a little clarity, I think. And surely it'll be fine if it works, works out in the end, if we somehow land the plane, then we'll do it. We're not there yet. So, in fact, the more I do right now, the more I'm like, it's looking less and less like him. And I'm okay with that because at least initially, to have something is to have is really fine. Like if I've got it, then I can compare and adjust and change and correct. But I've got to have something there to compare to. That's one of my big. See, like this shape of this eye, I think is a little strange, and so I'll keep working at it. Kind of like with St. Josephine Bakhita, there was. I feel like I had a really good straight on image. And so what I'll probably do, which I don't quite have room here on my tablet, is when I address this next time, I'll probably have another 4 or 5 up here, not on a live stream where I can be trying to really key in on some facial features. So. Okay, so Rob says, I mean, my saucer went wrong. I don't know whether to try to correct it or to start again. Yeah. I would probably be a little different. I feel like there's a spirit within artists that are very much like, and maybe a lot of instructors, like, don't be afraid to pick it up, throw it away if it's not working. And I don't know, like it feels like quitting. I no, seriously, I think I can only, not even, all right, yeah, I wouldn't even fill up one hand if I counted all the paintings that I just quit working on, in my entire career. Because I want to see it through, and maybe it's some sort of stubborn thing about me or something. But I want to solve the problem. If it's having an issue, I want to dive back into it. But I see what you're saying. When it comes to the saucer, do I like redraw it? I think it just depends on like how much, there might be a lot of the painting that's still really good and salvageable. And if so, then maybe you want to think about like, okay, I just need to kind of regroup on this one area and then it's going to be fine. So yeah, when I take a look at it, when you figure out how to send it my way, I'll give you my honest opinion. But it will probably be to lean in and do the hard thing and finish it. So, because I mean right now, this is a great moment to talk about this. Right now, I am completely unenthused about where things are. Like I said, every mark I make, I feel like I'm losing the likeness, and that if I didn't, if I didn't push myself to finish, I would probably just quit, and then I wouldn't see the promise, in the end of it, like working. And so I don't know. My encouragement will kind of always be to stick with it for sure. Yeah. Let's see. Sure says, I can't answer for him, but most of it's artists push through. Yep, make corrections along the way while painting instead of starting over. Yep, that's my spirit too. Although I've known several artists who have like shattered all their pottery or or things like that, which I'm like, whoa, that was a lot of effort. What? I don't know. I was kind of feel like it can be redeemed in some way, you know. A little bit of an optimist in that way, I guess. Yep, it's not happening. I'm gonna have to. There'll be a big regrouping. So what happens in a time like this where, like I could keep going. So here's the thing that like could happen. If this were something I was studying, I was creating, like I was in life drawing class, the classes that we offer here at the atelier, I would just keep drawing this person, drawing for my model, got a 2-hour class. All right, so I didn't quite get the person, but I'm gonna get something close and then give it to him at the end. Um, and so like I would just go with it, but I know that I'm gonna have to kind of come back and work this much more I mean, for me to be satisfied with the likeness of Acutis, and just not there yet. Things that I know for sure. Yeah, man, smashed a leg off. Ooh, I don't. That's something you can't come back from at all. You can kind of come back from paintings, if I were to just, smear across it or something. Um, so things that I think I'm missing. I think maybe chin's too wide. I'm gonna look at many other references of his face. Maybe I think the eyes are a little too wide. I think that might be part of it. Let's see. So here's where it's all trial and error, and sometimes it just gets worse when I do things like this. So let's see. I think the eyes are a little more just squinted and just in general. If I raise the lower eyelid a little bit, and the same on this side too. And that little move, I think, was a slight help. It was a slight help. So I'll take what I can get there. Trying to decide how much. So there's a big difference in the two references. For the most part, we have the light coming from one side. The big difference is the eye, this eye, and like how much shade is on it, like how much shadow. And that's kind of where I'm struggling what to do with it. Do I make it more like my reference, but try to get the shape the same? And I think I could do that with other references. So today you're really getting to just hear my internal dialogue of like problem solving, problem solving, problem solving. Okay, I think one is maybe a little bit more eyebrow on this side. Because now I have enough of this in that I'm going to start nudging some things around. So maybe a little bit more eyebrow. Come a little farther. And maybe a little less on this side. Let's... Yeah, that just helped for drawing, period. Because that sends that eye structure back a little farther on that side. his eyebrows are really close to his eyes. That's the other thing I like kind of keep coming back to, and we need to close the gap a little bit on this, but I don't want to make him look angry. And it's funny how little movements like that can change the mood of the person being depicted. Sometimes it makes me laugh, actually. I'll make a change and it completely changes the demeanor, or it ends up looking like someone else. It'll be a small change. I just laugh. All right, I've got some information I haven't put in yet. It's very around the nose. Yep, I'm realizing just how much information I need to hunt down, find. The more I step back, the more I'm like, I don't know who it is yet. Let's see. I use my hands a lot to block certain things, so I'll try to kind of cover a feature up. And this is one of those like tricks I'll use. Like I'll cover up a feature so that I can see if, and I think that, so I think I've got a little bit too much rounded cheek here. I'll cover it up a little bit, and if I cover it up and I feel like it looks more like the person, and then I'll say, ah, there's something there, and I can shift it in some. I think there might be something there. Yeah, and that's just so. Rob, to our conversation earlier, a lot of it's drawing. So much of it is like a drawing decision, and I think it just maybe this side of the face is in some ways bigger than it ought to be. However, I want to make sure that I keep his cheeks, which I think are very definitive of his look. So it says, I know how much a good reference would help you out. You just reinforced my belief in that. I think it's a uniquely you thing to use more than one photo of a person. Never seen it before. Impressive. And thanks. Well, we're going to get many more. And I think, the whole more than one person thing is more than one reference is like, how do you, if you were painting from life, right? And everyone says, and everyone is right, that, you're going to achieve more, a better painting, a better everything, the more you can work from life, there's just more information because you can move around and see them in the third dimension and see how things work. And so I think using a lot of references is kind of my way of doing that. All right, I'm going to try bringing this in a little bit. So his hair, carve in just a little more on that side. So I'm going to see. So I took out about a distance about that far. And then it's really unclear down here. But I do have this kind of backpack. He was a millennial. I'm going to carve into the cheek here just a little bit. Yeah, and this is kind of what I mean by like drawing as I go. Small changes here, maybe like 2 millimeters, something pretty minimal, but it already has made me like it more. Another thing I think just noticed is I'm going to shift this up and sharpen. This is a little rounded. And I'm going to sharpen this a little bit. And I think it also then needs to look a little more like him. It's funny though, but I can also certainly see my other reference in it, even the facial features slightly. It's so funny. Cool hand trick. No mirror today. Oh, got it. Haven't used it yet. Oh, I don't know if I want to. I'm ready for that. Okay, it's definitely not him in the mirror. That's for sure. Yeah, I do like the hand trick, just like doing a slight cover and just see how that shifts. And I use it a lot for lots of things. It's like something just seems wrong or strange or off. All right, I'm going to get in this little more of this shadow here that I missed earlier. I think, so here's another, I think, famous last words. I think this is going to change it. I think I need to bring out the width here, emphasizing that shape. And so we're gonna try bringing this out a little bit and seeing what happens. That also appears more like him if we give a little bit more there. Not quite. It's funny how it just immediately changes it. It's wild to me. Like all the little shapes are working alongside all the others, and like every little nudge, right, left, whatever, is comes closer or farther away. So thanks, Rob, for that vote of confidence. I appreciate it. Shirley says, I drew and painted out of my head for 20 years. Wow. Almost comic book style illustrative. Yep. I just started painting from reference in life in the past 2 years. It's like learning a new language. Well, I still think you probably gained a lot more than you realize. That was my background too, was in like high school, being the high school cartoonist and illustrate, yeah, a lot of illustrating. Loved illustration. And when I got to college, there wasn't like an illustration course, because I just went to my local college. I didn't really do a lot of research. I wasn't very, yeah. I didn't plan well, and almost even missed like the admissions deadline for immediately following high school. And so I just got into the Wichita State art program there, and the options were drawing class was, working on still life, and learned really quickly that I had an eye for it. Was then encouraged to take an oil painting class, and the rest is history, as they say. Question, please. Yes, Rob. Just an idea from a beginner with limited knowledge. You don't have to preface that. It's okay. Would it be easier to actually paint the portrait you want than change the color and lighting after? Um, uh, that might help. Uh, that's a good point, I think. So maybe I'm making it unnecessarily hard to like get it exactly like that and then try to shift some of the shadows and shapes. Not a bad idea. I'll try it next time. And there will be a next time. Not on anyone else here though. But I'm gonna keep that in mind. That's not see. I think people are like hesitant to say something because like, well, I don't know, this is maybe a dumb question or something. But it's like, no, it's a fresh perspective that what if I did approach it that way? I mean, I could work. I don't know. But really though, I'm also the one who kind of wants to approach each painting with some amount of freshness. So I'll try things I don't normally try each time. Even like today's stream, I didn't do the pre-mixes. I was like, oh, I'll just hop in and start painting. So, so yeah, just different sorts of things. Okay. Well, I'm looking at my clock. I've got about 10 minutes here. Maybe even a little bit less than that. Oh, 10 will work. So now I have to kind of shift gears and ask myself, okay, um, what what's going to happen is I'm going to leave this. It's going to dry, and I'll have to come back into it. So at this point, my focus is like, okay, what do I need to do to kind of prep this for my next run? And what I like to do is just kind of get a small brush or even a fan brush. I'm just going to clean up some of this. There's a lot of little areas that don't quite have paint on it yet, and so I just want to clean that and kind of finish it up. And even if it like overly buffs out some of this, what I don't want is if I go on top of this with some more transparent color, that I end up with some of the shapes in there. So I'm just going to kind of soften out some of this really quick, knowing that I think I might get to paint on it tomorrow, maybe a little bit. But I just don't want any really harsh edges, because I don't want those like showing through. So kind of gotta buff out some of this and make it like overly soft. So no, like yeah, I think that's one of the beauties of like what you're saying, Rob, is like you're kind of intimidated to say something, but it's like it's actually one of the beauties of the atelier model, and also someone who is has the spirit of wanting to continue to learn. Not everyone wants to do that, and I think some folks really want to be prideful over certain things. So that I don't know. I guess I'm just open. I'm open to those ideas because again, I to talk about Michelangelo earlier. I mean, that was his big saying. Always is like always learning, and cora imparo. This idea of like I'm always getting better. I'm always willing to, and I've heard it also be said, once you stop learning, you stop leading, or so more or less like, hey, if you stop trying to get better, or if you stop, you're just going to kind of languish, or if you say, this is my method and I'm going to just totally stay with it. It's kind of why I like to remain open and try new things. And so next time, Rob, Gotta remind me when I start the next big panel like this. I don't know when that'll be. Maybe, another year from now, but maybe sooner. Who knows? I'm going to give it a shot for you. All right, let's see. Got to get all these little bits and shapes, little things here and there. Bottom of the nose. My nose is definitely wonky and needs a little bit of work. We'll come back to that, adjust it and shift some things around for sure. So like sort of like right now I'm just kind of bouncing around. I don't want to really have a really hard. And I know what I say, I say don't blend, just leave the color there. That's still very much true. I'm just trying to kind of clean up the areas that I feel like are like overly hard edges that will show up underneath other paint. As if there's kind of a softer transition to some of these when I dive back in. Either tomorrow, but probably not tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know what. This all depends. Hopefully, what you'll see is, you'll see the next stream, and it's like done, right? I'll be out of the way here, and you're like, oh, it looks like it. Or we do a foot right here. Here's a foot. You can't quite see it yet. There's St. Francis's foot is next to him. So when we do that one next, we'll see if it looks right. You'll be able to see it on the stream. And you can say, did he get there or not? But I'm not throwing out the painting or breaking it in half or any of that. There is always just a little bit of slight disappointment and that I've kind of come to like peace with. And you probably experience this too in your own work, where it's like kind of no matter how hard you try, and it's never quite the vision of what you hoped it would be, and that is very common. So don't let that like I think it can kind of ruin the experience, because it's like, oh, it's not this, or it's not what I wanted it to be, or what have you, and but instead realizing, okay, that's okay. What I'm doing is a hard thing. Yeah, I think this whole eye is gonna have to shift over a little bit. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, that's another good thing too, is I can actually look at each eye singly. Well, maybe the problem child is more. That's fun too, is like looking at each eye and asking like which one looks more like him. Because they're just not quite aligned. I've lost track of that, so they'll shift. All of that will. Yeah, that's a good point, Shirley, too. Because it never that kind of lack of full contentment keeps us wanting to be like, yeah, getting better, do a better job, keep improving. Well, you know, that might be it for today. Okay, everything's kind of softened out, and I feel like when I come back to it, um, starting point. But definitely didn't get where I wanted to get today. But maybe another time. Like I said, in the end, I'm gonna do a thing where I maybe take a flyby of the whole painting, and we'll kind of see what happens. Yeah, step out of the way there, and you can kind of see the work that I've been doing on like his hand. You know, I did his hands, but his shirt, backpack, jeans, you know, all of that's there. And I think it'd be fun even to just, you know, if you go back to one of the episode 1 or what have you, you can see see how far it's come, how far we're getting things filled in. So, Rob, Shirley, thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. And keep painting, keep doing great.